I'm Rabbi Michael Barclay, and welcome to the Rabbi's Table, a place of dialogue, not debate, a place where we can disagree without being disagreeable, a place where we can learn things, learn from each other, and hopefully make the world a better place as a result of it. Today at the table, like at any dining table, we have guests, and today the guest is a really special and terrific man. Officer Brandon Tatum is really a hero. And that may be the best way to describe him, the one word to describe him. He was a college athlete, was a police officer, but then has gone on to be an author, an influencer, someone who is really trying in so many ways to make the world a better place through his own actions, through his teachings, through his influencing people, through his work as a father, as a mentor, with so many different companies that he has. And so it's a real blessing to have him here. He's going to be sitting with us, talking about different topics of the day, different issues that are going on, obviously security issues, since he comes from that background, theological issues, but just to have a real dialogue like we would at any dinner table. So it's going to be a fabulous afternoon. I ask that you please kick back, just relax, enjoy, and hopefully we're going to learn some things and be entertained and have some fun with Officer Brandon Tatum here at the Rabbi's Table. I've been blessed to travel all over the world. I have to be honest. One of my favorite places to go, especially with my family, is up to Reno, and specifically up to the Atlantis resort up in Reno. It is beautiful. It's an amazing hotel, amazing restaurants. Reno's this fabulous little city. It really is the biggest little city in the world. You can go in the spring or the summer to Lake Tahoe. You can ski in the winter. Everything is up there. And I want to recommend that you go to Atlantis Casino and Resort. Go atlantiscasino.com, ATLANTIS, casino.com. Make your reservation. Spend a couple of days or a week up there. I promise you'll be happy about it. I know that I always am whenever we go up. So we're here at the Rabbi's Table with Officer Brandon Tatum. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us, for sitting down and spending some time together. It's really appreciated for you to take some time out of your incredibly busy schedule. So thank you. Thank you personally, and thank you professionally for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You know, I didn't realize you were talking about me. You were saying so many good words in that intro. So I really appreciate all the things that you said, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, look, humility is your humility is just a proof of who you are too. A lot of people don't know who you are, or they know about you from Blexit, or they know about you because you were on KBC in Los Angeles. As you know, my children were big fans when you were on here. Give us just a real brief little background, especially focusing on what you've been doing both in security and in the world of influencing and media.
Yeah, so I can start from the beginning. College football player, moved to Tucson when I was 18 and became a police officer in Tucson, 6.5 years. I was on the SWAT team. I was a field training officer, meaning I trained new officers how to be good quality officers. And then I moved on to doing social media. In 2020, everything kind of blew up on my channel. I got like 1 million followers in a month, and things just really began to progress. And then I began to expand. And so I hired a team of people to help me edit and started just creating other companies that were associated in certain verticals that I was involved in. And that's just expanded till today, where I think I own about 5 or 6 companies. We have a really, really big platform on all social media. I think we have over 8 million people who follow the social media platforms. I speak all over the country at universities. I think I've been to almost all 50 states to speak in various capacities. And so God has been really blessing me and blessing our team. And so I'm here now, just continuing to keep up the good fight and try to bring truth and reality in a palatable way to the world.
I want to point out something that you didn't say so ostensibly, but that you did allude to, and that I know is a truth, which is you're a man of faith, of deep Christian faith, and that is a guiding light and principle in your life. True?
Oh, 1,000%. I couldn't be here
so
without God being on my side, without me being faithful. And I think that's kind of why I've been blessed.
Amen. And I think that's really important for people to understand as well. It's not that you're a businessman, a security guy. You're a man of faith, and everything else comes out of that for you, I believe.
That's right.
So let's talk about what's really in the news and what's been in the news the last few days. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I guess that's redundant. Donald Trump is always in the news.
Right.
Donald Trump and the White House Correspondents' dinner. Again, an assassination attempt, right? How could this have been prevented? How did this happen? Was this an accident? Was this on purpose in some way? How did this happen? You're a security professional. You know security. How did this happen?
Yeah, I would love to believe that I know all the details, but I don't. However, from what I can observe, this was actually a failure. I mean, he accidentally was unable to kill the president of the United States of America. But if you look at what happened leading up to it, they didn't protect the president almost at all, because you have a guy who has a plan to kill the president, able to check into the hotel that the president is going to be at, and almost every cabinet member, and he has this rampage in his mind that he's going to go and kill everybody. And thank goodness he's an idiot and he don't know how to operate a firearm or have any kind of tactics with firearms, that he wasn't able to be more effective. But he was able to get into the hotel undetected with firearms in this hotel, and he was able to get through the lobby. And thank goodness he didn't enter the lobby at a different time period where more people were in the lobby getting ready to go down to the venue. But he ended up running through the checkpoint. They seem to be caught off guard. It's just too close for comfort, in my personal opinion. It appears, if I were the one, and obviously hindsight is 2020. It's easier said than done. I don't really know what their layout was, but it seems that you should have layers of Secret Service and protection, which means that getting into the hotel should be a layer. They should be monitoring the people that are checking into the hotel, because, hey, if you want to kill somebody, you're probably going to go to the hotel and check in. They should, be forward thinking when it comes to that. And people at the checkpoint should be layered as well. I mean, you see a guy, he shouldn't be able to run all the way down the hallway to get to the checkpoint and do what he did. There should be some interference between there and the venue. But thank goodness they were able to stop him, or he was able to stop himself, because he didn't get shot. So I don't know how he ended up stopping.
So as someone who understands this from an outsider's point of view, was this a failure, an accidental failure, or was this something else, something more nefarious?
No, I think it was a failure.
Okay.
What I think is that people take this stuff for granted. Just like Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, like, they just take it for granted. They think, oh, nothing's gonna happen. Oh, we don't have the funding. Oh, nothing. We're at the dinner, and we have this one layer. It's on the second floor, and I just feel like they don't take these things seriously enough. There should be no way in the world that someone should be able to get in that close to the president with a firearm. I don't care if it's 100 agents in between. He could have shot people all in the hallway. I mean, there was a lot of people that were in the hallway going to the bathroom, the red carpet, that he kind of was in the middle of engaging with. He just had his focus on the president. But, just imagine if it was 6 people. They would be able to overcome that checkpoint, and potentially tons of people could get killed. If they went and said, I don't know if they swept the place with bomb dogs or anything like that. Clearly they didn't detect him. And so what if he had a secondary option, which means that as they evacuate, he has a couple other guys that's going to shoot people as they run out of the building. So, the president will be fine, and the vice president.
Because you see all this from a certain perspective of all the possibilities that could have happened, and that didn't. Thank God. What about if this can happen with the president? What does that mean for the rest of the country? What does it mean in terms of the security for other events that are not presidential but are politically motivated in some way? What does it mean for anyone who speaks out? What does it mean for security? I mean, how tough is it now to actually have security at any event and actually make it safe and secure?
Well, to be honest,
I'm not just talking about the president. I'm talking about when you're speaking, when I'm speaking, when anyone's doing whatever.
Well, to be honest, you have to be forward thinking, and you have to be tactical about where you do the venue, right? If you want to be as secure as possible, you can't do it outside. Especially if you can't have snipers on the roof, you can't have counter surveillance, drones. If you can't do all of that, which is almost impossible to do, which probably takes $60,000, $70,000 per day to roll something out like that, then you need to isolate the venue and create the environment where you're advantageous, meaning that you do the event indoors, you do the event with one entrance exit. Our security team, what we do is we go out and we canvass the place before the speakers and the crowd gets there. So we make sure nobody's hiding in the bathroom and different things like that. And so there's ways that you set yourself up that you win 100% of the time by choosing the venue, choosing access, and
choosing
doing recon
I
first.
assume choosing police support as well, letting them know what's going on.
Oh, 100%. There's a
So
whole.
hold on a second, because we're
Yeah.
And we've talked before, I think, when we were at the PragerU event, that I actually have been approached by the local police chief, saying get a CCW, and the police are very involved and should be with security. But it seems like there is more political violence, whether we're protected by personal security or by the police. There's more political violence going on in the world right now than there ever has been in our nation. True?
Oh, 1,000%, and it's coming primarily from one direction.
So I want to come back to that, because we're almost at a break, but it's coming from one direction, you're saying. I don't know that I agree with that.
Exclusively.
I actually don't know that I agree with that. But is it coming because of influencers or politicians, social influencers, all of those kind of influencers? Is that what's creating this?
Oh yeah, I think it's coming from the media. I mean,
it's
the hatred and derangement against Trump, and
TDS.
The people who hate Jews, obviously anti-Semitism. I mean, all this rhetoric that's being pushed is really creating, and it's been fostered through the education system and all kind of other areas where it's fostering this hatred and normalizing violence.
So we're going to come back to normalizing violence after the break. We're going to come right back to this to talk more with you, officer, about what's causing this, the media, the politics, the world. We'll be right back at the Rabbi's Table with Officer Brandon Tatum. As we all know, there's been a war going on in Israel for over 2 years. And one of the places that's doing so much healing and so much work is the Bnei Zion Hospital in Haifa in Israel. They're one of the top rehab facilities in the world, and where all of the victims from the north go, and many from other places throughout the country, go up to Bnei Zion in Haifa. They built a nuclear-proof bunker and put a hospital inside of it. They finished that project in July of 23, and then the war started with Hamas terrorizing and kidnapping and killing so many people on October 7th, and it's been horrible since then. Today, we have this war going on with Iran and Hezbollah, where all these wounded are going to Bnei Zion Hospital, and the hospital needs your help. The hospital needs to raise funds so they can provide more facilities. They can provide more medicine, more healing for the many people, Jews, Christians, Catholics, Druze, Muslims, all the people who have been bombed, hurt, injured. We need to help them, and you can make a difference. And I really want to invite you to. Go to healthcareforisrael.org. That's healthcareforisrael.org. Make a donation. I'm a rabbi, but rarely can I say that I've been involved in saving someone's physical life. When I've made donations to this hospital, when I've raised money for the hospital, that money goes directly and saves human lives. Rarely can any of us say that we've done that. I am begging you, I am pleading with you, please go to Healthcare for Israel. Save some lives. Every dollar, every dime that you donate is both tax deductible, but every dime goes straight to the hospital for its good work. Again, that's Healthcare for Israel. Support Israel by doing this. Support Bnei Zion Hospital. Support humanity. And make a difference by healing and saving lives. So we're here at the Rabbi's Table with Officer Brandon Tatum. We were just starting to talk and get into this topic of what is causing this political violence, this upswing in anti-Semitic violence and pro-Palestinian violence and anti-Trump violence, and obviously manifested in 3 attempts on the president's life, if you include the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And Brandon, you just made the comment in one word, media. That accurate?
Yeah. It's more than just the media, but media has a huge responsibility here. When people are trusting you to be objective, and that they trust that you do research and that you have a lot of things figured out, because they don't have time to do it, right? People going to work, they're doing all this other stuff, and they turn on the news. They expect you to be genuine, but they're not. Every day they're saying Donald Trump is a fascist and he's Hitler. I mean, that's some of the most egregious things that you can say about a person that can lead to a tremendous amount of violence. Because why wouldn't you want to get rid of Hitler? As we know what he has done, what Hitler did. You can't have a person like that in power. If you're a fascist, if you're ruining America, you're a rapist. I mean, these are some of the most vile people to ever live fall in that category. And so if you think that the president is genuinely this person, because right, the media wouldn't just make this up, you begin to be convinced that this person is evil. And so everything that happens when it comes to violence against this person is justifiable. Then you have the normalization of violence, which is what Jimmy Kimmel did just the other day. It's where
disgusting.
you joke about violence and say, oh, it's just a joke. But you're saying somebody's being widowed. That's very violent when you give given the history of what happened to Charlie and what they attempted on President Trump. And that cycle creates psychopaths. Because you think about it, the gentleman that tried to kill Donald Trump the other day, this was a teacher. You're not talking about an extreme, you're not talking about a person who's in an extreme field where this person has nothing to lose, they a convicted felon. This person was inventing things, teacher of the week. This is like an average American person is so convinced that Donald Trump is that evil that he's willing to take a gun, get all the way across the country with a gun, and risk dying or spending the rest of his life in prison just to kill a man he think is a fascist.
So let's go back on
true.
that a little bit. Let's go back, and I don't agree with you. It's only coming from one side, honestly. I think it's become a horseshoe, and it's coming from both sides.
No, I'm saying the violence. Like I'm saying the perpetuation of actualized violence. Now, I think the rhetoric is coming from both sides for sure. And it's because it's their idiots, and then there's the regular people who want to have a good discussion. But the violence that's perpetuated in a physical form.
Interesting. So you would say that the rhetoric is coming from that horseshoe of both the woke right and woke left.
Yes, 100%.
But that the actions are mostly coming from the woke left. Again, using
right,
those kind of
and I don't even know if it's woke left anymore. It's
just
deranged lunatics,
progressive crazies.
And I see the same lunatics on the right. They're the same lunatics. I think they actually want to be the same in the same group. They just can't find it in themselves to change their title. But I think the same mentality and evilness is coming from the same spot.
I totally agree with you on that. And we rely on police officers to a great extent. Most people can't afford private security, obviously. How does this affect officers when influencers on both sides are throwing this rhetoric? How does it affect how the officers handle different things? I mean, is there a double standard in how protests or riots should be handled by officers? Do officers feel more uncomfortable when they're going into a political situation, a political riot, or demonstration? I mean, you can call these demonstrations whatever you want, but I saw what was going on in UCLA. You saw what was going around the country on college campuses. These were not peaceful demonstrations. Neither was Washington or Oregon. How does all this affect this rhetoric that's amping up and creating violence? How does this affect our officers?
You know, the rhetoric and the violence isn't so much of an effect on the officers as whether the department supports the officers when they have to use force. Because this stuff happens all the time.
Can you back that up a minute and just flesh that out? When you say whether the department is the department of police officers, right?
Right. So the department, meaning the heads of the department, the chief, the city council, if they're going to defend the cops in these situations, is more effective or affect officers more so than the actual situation, because violence happens all the time. These riots are less violent than some of the violent stuff that we engage with on a day-to-day basis as law enforcement officers. So the riot stuff is not as scary and as crazy as like other stuff we deal with. However, when it does happen, are officers able to actually do their job, or are they handicapped to the point where these rioters are now overtaking cities and burning stuff down and they can't keep the public safe? That affects the officers more than the actual riot, because we have training, we have equipment, we have riot gear, and all of these things that we can suppress riotous behavior, not protests. Protests are legal, but when it goes to the point of being a riot, we have the ability to protect the public from rioters. But if the department is not supportive, which means that they tell you to take a hands-off approach, let them burn everything down and bludgeon people because, you know, free speech, that's when it becomes an incredible problem. And that's the part that concerns me most about what happens across the country is not these lunatics who go and riot and do all this stuff with ICE and all this, but it's that officers can't enforce the law against them when they do violate, laws and violate other people's constitutional rights.
All right, let's back up for 1 second. So out of all the stuff that's going on with the crazy rhetoric from influencers, from people in the media, and from Congress as well. I mean, let's be honest, some of these people are truly Meshuggah, they're truly crazy, and they are looking for a revolution, for lack of a better word, some of these people on the far left. All this different stuff going on, all the violence and protests that go on, that I'm sorry, I've watched some of these things, they're not peaceful protests.
No.
You actually are tracking the root. If I'm hearing you right, are you saying that the root of the problem and the challenge of creating the cure it's actually the administration in charge of the police departments? Are you saying that those are the people responsible who could cure this problem and aren't because of how they treat their officers?
Yeah, 1,000%. Because this is a tactic that we use at the University of Arizona it was because kids are drunk and crazy. When we would go to the Final Four, whether we win or lose, they riot. So we had a tactical plan in place to eliminate it before it happened, right? So what we did was we decided to integrate into the crowds before they begin to form and become riotous. So we had groups of officers with yellow vests on, and we would integrate into the crowd. We'll talk to people. We'll be friendly with them. Therefore, we would not allow crowds to begin to form. Therefore, they would not be violent. We saw a tremendous success in not seeing riots happen by being proactive. What we need for these law enforcement agencies to do is to do the same thing. When they see that these things are building up, they need to integrate tactics in order for them not to get out of control. What we're seeing that's actually happening is that they don't care. And it's like the mayor don't want the appearance of law enforcement action against protesters. And in reality, they're just allowing people to, riot and burn things and be degenerates with no repercussions. And therefore, if there's no consequences, you just do it bigger and badder and crazier every single time. If you lay the law down initially, and we see that in Phoenix, that's why you don't see no crazy riots in Phoenix. We don't play here in Arizona. Like, you come out here, we're gonna make sure if you're turned into a riot and you're violating the law and you have a dispersal order, we're gonna give you a chance to disperse, and we're gonna make you. These other cities, they just let them do whatever they want to do, and then they become emboldened.
Look, I live in Los Angeles, so we both know what that's like.
Right.
So the Brandon Tatum understanding of these challenges, these peaceful demonstrations that are actually violent riots or become violent riots, people getting killed, whether it's a Palestinian demonstration that ends up killing a guy named Paul Kessler here in Westlake Village right after October 7th, or whether it's at UCLA, or whether it's in New York, whatever it is, your understanding of this system is, we have, if I'm understanding you right, we have problems because we have media / influencers / congressmen / influencers in whatever way amping up rhetoric, like Hakeem Jeffries just did the other day, that manifesting into demonstrations which can become violent because the police are not backed up by their administration. So if we removed any one of those three symptoms, either the influencers or the administration not taking care of the officers, we could heal this problem. But is that your analysis of the challenge that we have right now?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate on my analysis. But I will say the most important is the administration allowing the police officers to do their job, because you're not going to be able to stop the rhetoric from influencers. A lot of it is freedom of speech, and they can say whatever they want and have their opinions, and their opinions become, people are too dumb to do research and figure out that the people are lying to you. So that's never going to change. And the politicians are going to always be politicians. They're going to be lying, cheating, conniving politicians. That's not going to ever change. The only thing that can change is that when you come out to this city and you start rioting, or there's anything like that, we're going to enforce the law. and you're going
And
to go
that
to
comes
jail.
from the police chiefs. That comes from the mayor.
That comes from the city council. That comes from the city manager, the mayor, and the police chief. And you come out here and you act a fool, we're going to take you down. You're going to go to jail. You're going to go to prison. You're going to serve time. You're going to be prosecuted. So you come out here and protest like the law allows you to, constitutional rights. Your constitutional authority to do it. But if you get anywhere out of that and you start bludgeoning people and you start tearing up police cars and property, you're going to go to jail. And that's why you don't see it in Florida. You don't see it in any of these counties in Texas. You don't see them in hardly anywhere in the South, because law enforcement not playing with you. If you get out there and you act up, you're going to jail.
And we're all up against a break, but it's not just law enforcement. We also need good prosecutors and DAs, right?
100%. That's the other half of the battle. Because you can take them to jail all you want, but
so
they don't prosecute
initial influencers, police chiefs, supporting the police, having the good prosecutors. We're going to go keep looking at this issue a little bit, both in our podcast section and beyond, about the law, about relationships with Officer Brandon Tatum here at the Rabbi's Table. One of the greatest places that I know of to go to, whether it's for a day, a week, or even a little longer, is a vacation up in Reno, specifically at the Atlantis Resort and Casino in Reno. It's amazing up there, and it's a little gem of Reno that is often just ignored. I go up there with my family. There's wintertime skiing. There's summertime at the Lake Tahoe. And the Atlantis Resort and Casino is an amazing place to stay. Not only are the rooms beautiful, amazing views, but some of the restaurants are the best restaurants in the country, the Napa Bistro, different places that you can eat. There's an indoor pool. So you can go skiing in the morning and then go swimming in the afternoon. I really want to recommend to you to check out the Atlantis Resort. It's at atlantiscasino.com. That's atlantiscasino.com, ATLANTIS casino.com. It's up in Reno. I promise you, and I've been there, I promise you, you're going to have an amazing time. You won't be able to wait till you get back. Go visit it. Go see Reno. It's the greatest little city in the world. Go have some fun at the Atlantis. So we're here at the Rabbi's Table with Officer Brandon Tatum. This is the podcast-only part, the segment that is only for those podcast listeners. So it's a lot easier for me and a lot easier for you, Brandon, I think, as well, that we're not on a clock like we are on a radio station. So we're just talking about that there's this whole other level of prosecutors. So if we want to track it from beginning to end, if I understand what you're saying, we have challenges in terms of violence because, A, we have influencers who are ignoramuses, who are considered icons, who are preaching hate. That manifests in people trusting them and doing stupid things because they know that the police are not allowed by their administration to enforce the law, and that the prosecutors aren't going to necessarily prosecute it. So what we really need then is, going backwards, prosecutors who are actually going to prosecute, right? Mm-hmm. Police administrations who are going to actually support the police officers in doing their job, in arresting and in taking care of crimes, and then putting a muzzle on some influencers or exposing them for fakes. Is that kind of where we are and what we need to do? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, and I think it's fair, and it's prioritized in the right area. And I saw you corrected that, the muzzle part. Yeah. I mean, just calling these idiots out for being idiots. I mean, it's people in America. It's good and bad, right? I love the fact that we have the freedom of speech, and people also have the freedom to be stupid and idiots and nonsensical and say the craziest stuff on planet Earth. And our laws are protective of the free speech enough where people, it's a very thin line between disparaging people or defamation and free speech. And so that line gets blurred all the time, and you see people do it often. And that comes with disinformation and people being ignorant enough to just believe anything they hear, and that leads to violence, unfortunately. And so that's the bittersweet part about the First Amendment. And one thing I will say is that I'd rather live under that, type of environment than to muzzle people and not let them talk, right?
Because no, absolutely. And when I say muzzle, to me the muzzle is putting the boundaries of light on the darkness, of showing that this is the education. I don't mean, God forbid, silencing their speech.
I know what you meant. So.
That's why I shifted the word in the process, because really with the image that I have internally is their energy needs to be stopped.
And
stopped through light and through education.
It comes with good people standing up and not being afraid to call out the shenanigans or to put out good information. Because I know a lot of people, they rather focus on contesting another person versus saying, no, this is what the truth is. Let's put more truth out. Because the more you talk about some of these people, the more you give them more energy. It's like the boogeyman. You bring them up, they become bigger than they should be. And it's really like, let's just tell what the truth is about all of these topics. And hopefully
shine
our
light on
message
darkness.
get out there. Right, exactly.
Shine God's light on
Yes.
Look, for years, for many years, I was asked to do a radio show or podcast. I kept saying no for a lot of reasons. And there are a lot of different reasons. And then when CRN approached and said to do this, so what do you want to do? To me, the only thing that makes sense is one of the things I hate about social media is that it seems to be all geared towards clickbaiting. Let me try and get you a gotcha moment. Let me try and make you look like an idiot. Let me try and make you, cause controversy. It's Jerry Springer on steroids. And that's totally uninteresting to me as a human being, as a rabbi, as a man. So I said, there's this concept of Rebetish. Rebetish is a Yiddish expression, means the rabbi's table. In 17th, 18th century Europe, a lot of public policy was decided around the local rabbi's table because people would come for dinner and have dialogue. And actually public policy in Eastern Europe, a lot of it came out of dinners at the clergy's house. Mm-hmm. And so it's only interesting to me to actually have dialogue. I think that's the fight, is to try and, I think that's the good way to do things. And I think the woke left and woke right of clickbaiting and screaming and trying to conspiracy theories and all that, I think is, in Hebrew we call it Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And I think as a man of faith, you probably feel the same way, I'm guessing, about that kind of stuff.
I think we're reading the same sheet of music. I wish that people would be interested in the truth versus interested in, clickbait and stuff like that.
That's what we tried. That's why we created the show. That's exactly reason.
And people in your audience have to understand that there's a lot of money in this. And this is why people choose the clickbait. If you don't have integrity and you're looking at the dollar signs, there are certain topics certain positions that you take that can make you very wealthy. And there's positions that you could take that make you lose a lot of money, right? And so that's the battle that's happening here, that's compounding people just being pure evil in the first place. And so, people like myself, like when I stand up for Israel and I stand up for Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA and different things that I believe in because I know what the truth is, I get punished over it. I lose money over it. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to do what's right because I trust God and I'm like, I'm going to do what's right and whatever happens is going to happen. I can't live with myself lying and being deceitful, trying to make a easy dollar. But some people don't operate like that. Some people see the wave and they ride the wave, man. If you want to make a conspiracy about Erica Kirk today, you're going to get way more views than I would. And some people see it. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care what it is. They're just running up the bank account. And then before you know it, they'll be on to the next topic and maybe even change their whole perspective. If the influence goes in another direction, we've seen it happen. There's so many people that used to be one way, and then now all of a sudden they're completely opposite. And
but they're making more money, right?
Because it's a lot of money. I know that I'm losing a lot of money. When I take certain positions, so I know that there's a lot of money to be made if you just compromise and do this, but at the end of the day, I don't operate like that. God is going to take care of me as long as I tell the truth and do the right thing.
Amen. And you know where I stand, both as a human and as a rabbi, because we've talked about that. This is either the show will work, it will not work, but it will be done with ethics and it will be done correctly and it will be done in a way of dialogue and in harmony with the Torah, with the scriptures, with the text, and with the teachings. You mentioned Israel. So one of the places that, let's not even call them woke right and woke left. Let's just say these extremist influencers, media personalities, on both sides of the aisle, one of the places that they coalesce is Jew, hatred for Israel. Okay? And I've called out these people. I was the first person to call out a number of these people in writing. more and more these people are exposing themselves, and on both sides, on the left and on the right. It seems the one thing they can agree upon is Israel's horrible and all of that. You've been to Israel, correct?
Yeah, yes, I have.
And so I have 3 questions to start this. What are your feelings about Israel from 3 different Brandon Tatum perspectives? And here's what I mean by that, okay? I'm a rabbi. I'm a congregational rabbi. I'm a teacher. I used to be a professor at LMU. I'm an academic. I'm a writer. I'm a father of teenage twins, right? We all have, I'm a cigar aficionado as you are. We all have our own, they're all different aspects of our person, and they make up who we are. We're like a diamond with many facets. Your feelings about Israel from 3 different perspectives. First of all, as a proponent of law and legality and as a law officer and security specialist, briefly, your feelings about Israel.
It's an interesting question. I hope I can answer that properly. You're saying as a security element to America?
If you just put on your hat, you let go of all the other parts of you, which I'm not a fan of compartmentalizing, but for just a moment, if you let go of the parts of you that make all of your humanity and your neshama, your soul, and you're just wearing the mask, because we all wear different masks at different times. You're just wearing the mask of law enforcement officer, security specialist. That's your viewing perspective of the world. How do you feel about Israel?
Well, I look at it in the context of how does it affect America, right? So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm favorable towards Israel. I think Israel is an incredible ally to the United States of America for security purposes. They've been a physical ally to America, meaning that they physically help us in many of these conflicts that benefit both our countries. And I don't think that Israel is a security threat in a negative way towards the United States of America. Do I think that in some part Israel may be spying on America and we spy on them? Yeah, that's the nature of the game. I'm pretty sure we want to see what they're doing. They want to see what we're doing. But when you look at the totality,
that's what allies do. It's not.
Well, that's what happens, man. That's what happens, right? I don't care what nobody says. We're gonna make sure that the government of Israel is not doing anything nefarious against us, and I'm pretty sure they want to make the same, thing. So that happens, but in its totality, I think that Israel is a security benefit to the United States of America. We have a lot of common shared interests, very similar democracies, and we've been partnering on a lot of missions lately that have been incredible for safety in the Middle East and safety in the United States of America.
Safety in the Middle East is a requirement for safety. It's about safety in America requires it to be safe in the Middle East.
100%. And people that have this isolationist mentality, I don't know what their thought process is, because the evil that happens there is going to spread throughout the world. And if we don't address it, have a hand on it, be notified about it, have some type of intel, we're going to be caught with our pants down, for a lack of better words. These just say that we didn't care that Iran had a nuclear weapon. We didn't care. We like some of these mindless people that live in our country that thinks that we're supposed to be an isolationist and we shouldn't care and involve ourselves in anything else. Just imagine if they did and they decide to hit a nuclear weapon in Israel.
God forbid.
And then what's going to happen to us? You not think as a Christian, that's
no. You're not. This isn't a Christian yet.
Oh,
this
yeah.
Is
let
just,
me not get
sorry,
to the
this
Christian
police
side.
officer. No. Stop that.
Yep. Let me leave that alone. But we'll get to that one. But just as a security measure, I mean, we don't know what's going on over there. The conflict increases, and they decide to send ballistic missiles to the United States of America, and now we're fighting from, Florida, or fighting from our shore in New York, instead of fighting from Qatar or fighting from Israel. Right? We're going to end up having a war on our doorstep. And those are things that, as a country, as a military, we should not be willing to do. And there's nothing against us allying with people in the Middle East that share values with us and us making America a safer place.
So that's as a security person. I'll take off your security hat. Okay? And now you're Brandon Tatum Officer Tatum, talk show host, influencer, author, speaker. How do you feel about Israel from that hat?
Well, I love Israel. I love a lot of things about Israel. Obviously, I went to Israel. It had a significant impact on my life. And one reason, because I didn't know I had this perception of what Israel would be until I went there. Because I honestly, growing up, I never left Texas. Yeah, I never traveled. I never went to other states. I didn't know what the world was like. You see stuff on television, you have an imagination of what that will be. And so I thought Israel was just like Afghanistan
When
and
did you
Iraq.
go? When did you go to Israel the first time?
It was literally a couple months before October 7th.
Okay.
So it was June. I think it was June of.
Oh, you were there. You were actually there when my family and I were there, July of 23. So you were right in that time period.
Yeah. I was there in June. I think I was June of 23, and that was my first time going. But I had never. I never thought about it. I thought that all of Israel was probably like the old city of Jerusalem, right? And I thought it was more like Afghanistan or something, like a third world country look. And that's the ignorance that I had. So when I went and I said, well, wait a minute, look at all this innovation, the freeways, that's just beautiful. We didn't even go to Tel Aviv, so I don't even know what Tel Aviv looked like. So, and I heard Tel Aviv was pretty modern too, but going over Israel and it just the perception I previously had, and then gaining a perception, dealing with and seeing how all the people were working together in Israel, the Arab people, Jewish people, at the hotels, at all the sites. I mean, to be honest, I never thought that there would be such violence in Israel when we went there. Of course, the tour guide said, hey, and we can't go to the West Bank, or we can't go to the Gaza Strip because it's a little too dangerous. But I just, there's a lot of people that come from Gaza into Israel to work, and it seemed like a normal place. It seemed like there wasn't a lot of conflict. It seemed like it was a lot of space for everybody to live their life peacefully, right? You had the Christians, you had the Orthodox Christians, you had all kinds of different tourists and religious people. And like I said, at every hotel we went to, it was Arab people, it was Jewish people, and the Arabs had their holiday, and so they were gone, and the Jewish people were there, and then the Jewish people had Shabbat, and the Arab people took over, and everybody was working in harmony. The markets and everything was peaceful.
The shuk's are great. The shuk is so as your influencer hat. You want to invite people to Israel, have people come to Israel. You're a big proponent of Israel, for people to actually see the truth.
Yeah, people need to go to Israel. Like I am going to invite people to Israel. I'm going to have a tour for my listeners, and we're going to all go to Israel so they can have an opportunity to see it and have an opportunity to, experience it.
Okay, so here's an influencer. So as political, as a law enforcement officer, a security guy, you totally get that this is about American security. As an influencer, it's what I say about Israel is that the colors are more vibrant, the food is better, everything is just more alive. That's my experience of Israel. But you're a big proponent of the country and visiting it and seeing it and for yourself, right?
100%.
Okay. Let's go to the deepest part of who you are, because those are all masks.
Right. It was hard. It was hard to hold it back on every segment.
I know. Well, it's I'm trying to hold boundaries on the law enforcement guy.
Yeah.
As a man of faith and Christian and a Christian, and Brandon, just so you know, and I say this all the time, my belief is that Messiah is going to come. I'm going to say welcome. You're going to say welcome back, and we're both going to accept him. That's always been my belief. God is God, and we need to accept each other. And as a man of faith and a Christian, how do you feel about Israel?
Israel is a very significant place. It's where Jesus was. It's where our faith started. Our faith all the way from Abraham all the way through, So it's significant in that sense. I believe that God has called us to protect Israel, and that the Jewish people. Can you say that again?
As a Christian,
God has called us.
We're not talking about anything else.
Yeah,
Brandon Tatum is a Christian. Your belief is
that God has called us to protect Israel, and that is acknowledging, supporting the Jewish people and their right to exist and their right to be sovereign in their own nation, and we should be in support of that, not in conflict with that. And in my personal opinion, as a man of faith, and what I think God wants us to do is that if there's an opportunity for us to use the blessings that we have had in our country, we should roll those blessings over to make sure that Israel is protected from all of these enemies that want to kill them and want to destroy the foundation of our faith. And, I think that's very important. I think every Christian should go to Israel. Every Christian should see where Jesus walked. Every Christian should see the prophets, should see Solomon's temple. And you go down the list, the city of David. Every Christian should go to Israel. And every Christian should find themselves.
The Holy Sepulchre. They should be on the Galilee to see where he taught men to fish for souls.
All of it. We've done it. I did it all when I went there, and it was a blessing. I want to go back. I want to go every year, but obviously the war and everything else made it difficult. I mean, I even convinced my wife to want to go. Now she can't wait to go to Israel.
Brandon, maybe we can talk offline. We're actually doing a trip, B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, in conjunction with the Maccabi games this July. And maybe you can come as the guest of the Maccabi if you want to come with us as the guest of the government.
If the war comes down, my wife and I, I want to go to Israel as much as I can. I love Israel. And so back to the faith component, and I think that the hatred towards Israel and the Jewish people is spiritual. I think people are operating by being influenced by the devil, especially Christians who, when you look at your Bible, it's very clear the stance that God has about the Jewish people. It's clear God's stance on the geographical area of Israel, and it's clear of our relationship with Jewish people and our engrafting or being engrafted into the promise. That means that we're a part of the same family,
not replaced,
and not replaced. There's no element of replacement. I mean, Jesus never said anything like that. It never came out of Jesus' mouth. None of his apostles ever said anything or alluded to any replacement theology. And it doesn't even make sense for there to be a replacement theology. It is arrogant for Christians to believe in replacement theology. It's arrogant. Amen. And it's exactly what Paul said that we should not do. And I know Paul is controversial to a certain extent, even in some Christian sects, because obviously he didn't study and learn directly from Jesus. But even Paul in Romans 11 articulated very clearly about how Christians should not be boastful and arrogant in our availability to salvation. I'll tell you this, Rabbi, I don't understand. And I know that there's Jewish people who are extreme and they hate Christians. And I know there's Christians who hate Jewish people. I'm talking about the normal people, right, in the middle. I don't understand why we can't get along more. I don't understand why we can't be a big family.
So I think the reason, Brandon, is a lack of understanding and a lack of faith. So you or Pastor Rob McCoy, who is a mutual friend, and you've accepted Jesus fully into your heart. So my not accepting Jesus as my Messiah doesn't threaten you.
No.
You want me to accept Jesus so I can be in heaven with you. It is the ultimate act of love. You're trying to convert me is the ultimate act of caring and love. And because you come from faith. So I find two challenges. One is the Christian who doesn't really have faith, deep faith, he says, well, wait a minute. My faith's not strong, so I've got to put down the Jew. Because their faith really isn't strong. You've integrated your faith. It's clear in every breath you take that you are a man of Christ. You are a man of God. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. People who don't have that faith, they need someone to persecute, to prosecute. And similarly, on the Jewish side, I constantly have this teaching that I have to give to Jews who say, those Christians, they want to convert me. It's like, that's out of love. It's out of pure love. And respect it. You may not want to do it, but respect and treasure that they care about you enough that they want you in heaven with them. You and I pray to the same God. And we got to accept that. And so I think a lot of it comes from fear and a lot of it comes from not having faith themselves. I mean, what do you think on that?
Oh, 100%. I often think that people who are surface level believers, which means that they're in name only, they go to church on Sunday, but they do nothing else during the week, and they want to browbeat and they don't even understand the scripture themselves. I do not understand how people do not consciously are not consciously aware that Jesus was a Jew. I don't understand how they missed that. Jesus kept the Sabbath. And this is one thing that are going to get me in trouble, but I do think a lot of Christians feel this way because they've lost who Jesus is, and they lost way in thinking that there is some new religion created. I really do think that people need to go back and listen to Jesus. And as a believer, we need to acknowledge what Jesus said and try to live more like Christ. I think one of the reasons why a lot of our Jewish brothers cannot accept Christ is because a lot of times Christians are preaching the wrong Christ. They're not preaching real Christ. They're not preaching what he said. They're preaching their own theology that fits their rhetoric to make them right all the time. And they will fold and bend and contort and change scripture, take scripture out, put scripture in to make them right in their own eyes, instead of just looking back on it and saying, what did Jesus say? What does it mean when Jesus says this? How valuable is it that Jesus was a Jew? How valuable is it that all of the apostles were Jews? How valuable is it that every person that wrote every book of the Bible, minus two books of the Bible, were all Jews? I mean, I think that Christians need to be humble in part and portray Jesus for who he really was. And I think that some of our Jewish brothers and sisters will be able to see Jesus and hear what he had to say, instead of us painting him as if, you know, he's something that he wasn't. And that's just my opinion about it. But I think we should get along. The fact that whether you accept Jesus Christ or not, that's not my burden. My burden is to show who he was and what he said. And that's somebody else. That's up to Christ to get into the hearts of a man and show him. Because I'm not God. I can't come down and be in your dreams and show you something. My prayer is always that we're telling the truth about what Jesus said. And then Jesus, and what we believe is that Jesus has the capacity and the capability to visit you in your dreams, to show you signs and wonders. Jesus still lives. So if Jesus is who he said he was, it's really up to Christ in part to finish the work. I can only tell people who Jesus Christ is. I can't make you convert.
No, you
Right?
just spread the good news. You just spread
I
the
can't.
gospel, the good news.
That's all
literally.
you do. The gospel does the work on its own. All we're here to do is to say, hey, let me share this with you. And God is going to do the rest. It's like that with everything else in life. Even I believe as a Jewish person, it's like, you know, we're not God. We're just vessels, and we just need to tell the truth. And when we tell the truth and in love, then God can do the rest. Because I didn't come to Christ because somebody beat me on the corner somewhere telling me I'm gonna go to hell if I don't convert or if I don't live for Christ. I didn't come to Christ that way. I came to Christ because in my heart I knew that I could not do this by myself. And I knew, and I humbled myself, that I didn't have it all figured out. And I need to go and look into this. That's how I came to Christ. And through love and the fact that Christ still loved me, although I was cutting up and acting a fool, and that I can be accepted, you know, if I repent and turn from my wicked ways, that compelled me. But also, I had dreams about Christ. I believe at one point I saw Christ's face. And of course, I don't know what he looked like, but I saw a red face and I just knew it was Christ. And it was one of them times where I'm in like you know how you sleep and you kind of up at the same time, you're in that middle stage. And that changed everything for me. I'm like, this is real. I need to pursue Christ. And that was the guiding light. It was, and then all that man could do is just continue to preach the gospel and what was said in the scriptures. But they're not converting anybody.
That's a beautiful. I mean, it's.
I hope I'm not going to get in trouble with people, but it's like that's how I feel.
Get in trouble
like,
with
men should not believe that it's their responsibility to somehow convince you or to convert you. It's just their responsibility to share the truth. And then whatever God has planned for somebody else is going to be on his timing.
And I think part of that truth is, as you said, we find in Israel too. I mean, your story is a beautiful, beautiful, personal, transcendent moment that took you down a path to be a man of Christ. And I think as a rabbi, I think that is exquisitely beautiful and extremely holy. Do you know Secretary Turner at all?
I don't believe so.
You should reach out to him. You guys have very similar backgrounds in a lot of ways. He was a football player, as I think you know, and it was also is a pastor as
Wow.
well, before he became into politics. So as a man of deep faith and experience, and I love that you refer to how other people talk about how Jesus was, but you talk about how Jesus is numerous times in your sentences, which tells me more than anything, for you, that is your pathway. And in fact, it is a living part of who you are. And I think that is, as I say, exquisitely beautiful and deeply holy. And much of your faith was deepened in going to Israel, right? In that experience.
It turned into reality, right? You know, you can read the Bible and you see all the stuff and you imagine in your mind, but then when you actually go there and you say, well, this is what the prophecy said, and this is what the revelation of the prophecy. This is on the Sea of Galilee where Jesus, you know, could have done these things. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly where he was at on that big lake, but, you know, in part, he could have been anywhere on this lake doing the miracles that we see in the Bible, and the Mount of Beatitudes where he preached, and, you know, the Garden of Gethsemane. And it's like a lot of things. Like even one thing that was interesting to me, which I still have to like research and figure out. I'm really into that. I know I don't have all the answers, and I like to like dig into things. But, you know, in the Bible where, you know, Jesus had mentioned Gehenna, in the biblical translation, they translate into hell. But the original word in the language that Jesus used was Gehenna. And then when you go to Israel, you know, there's a place that's actually Gehenna. And to put that together, and it was just very interesting, because it gives you at least the idea of when he had mentioned Gehenna to the people that lived there, what was going through their mind when he had said it. Seeing that it's a real place, and seeing that the city of David and the temples and where they did sacrifices, and it's like it's real. Like it's not a fairy tale.
No, to me, when you walk on the street, on the stones into the old city, and you realize this is the exact stones that David walked and danced on. These are the stones they threw the palm fronds on to Jesus.
Yes,
it changes it all. So, as we wrap up this podcast segment, and then we have one more part for the show, for the radio show as well. With all that you've had, and you've been really touched by Israel, what's one thing, just one thing about Israel or the war, the conflict, that you think your audience, and you have a large audience, what's one thing that you think about Israel that you think your audience would be surprised to hear you say?
Oh, my audience or somebody else?
No, your audience, man.
No, I don't know. I don't know if they'd be surprised. I mean, I say the same thing every day about it, and I've been consistent on the topic. You know, when it comes to Israel and the conflict, I just believe that Israel did what they should have done to protect their people, and they had every right to go to war in Gaza and to do what they did to where they're satisfied with the end result. And America would have done the same thing. I don't even know how people are still arguing about this. If any of those things happen in America like they did in Israel, you had a terrorist group come and kill massive amounts of people, recorded. I mean, just the pompous, arrogant nature of recording the beheadings and murdering of people. You're gonna get a whooping. All right, that's what like the old school. You're gonna get a whooping. So whenever Israel decided to go in and get their people back, and these animals decided to put their own people in between what Israel needed to accomplish, hey, you know, it happens. That's what had to happen. And I don't like that the kids had to be involved in it. But look, they can't care about your kids more than you care about your own kids. And if they did that in America, I'd be just as encouraging. I'll be just as supportive for us to go and accomplish what we need to accomplish for the safety of our people in our country. And I don't know if people be surprised for me to say that, but that's what it is. And I'll never change my mind on that topic. It is what it is.
So Brandon Tatum's words are, for Israel, go give them a whooping because they deserve it.
They deserve it. They gonna get a spanking. That is how it is. If you don't want a whooping, then don't go into somebody's country killing people and putting it on camera and kidnapping and doing all that other stuff. You can stay in your country and live your life, make it beautiful. Instead of spending billions of dollars to build tunnels and terrorism, how about you build some property on the ocean front? The Mediterranean Sea is beautiful. I mean, God, the economy in Gaza could be crazy. People would be going to Gaza for tourism, but instead they're evil and they want to kill people and they want to do all this crazy jihad. When Israel allowed them to come into their country and hundreds of thousands of people from Gaza work in Israel, I mean, the two-state solution approach has been approached multiple times. They don't want it. They want to hate. They want evilness. They want to kill every Jew. And Israel has a right to stop them from doing that and stand up for what's right for the people. And I'll stand with Israel to the day I'm gone.
Well, that's going to be, God willing, a long time, and hopefully we'll be in Israel together. So we're going to go back from this podcast section because both of our staffs are yelling at I think, both of us. So we're going to go back from this to the radio part of the show and continue this. And I just want to tell you, Brandon, thank you for being a man of faith. I really, really appreciate it. We're going to return with Brandon Tatum right here at the Rabbi's Table to talk more about a little bit what we were talking about just now and take it even a little bit further into this world of Jewish, Christian, Muslim relations. We'll be right back here at the table. If you like what you're seeing and hearing at the Rabbi's Table, I invite you to subscribe and to follow us on any of your podcast mediums, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, whatever it is. You can just follow us. You'll get all the latest information, special information from us, special segments of podcasts. You can also go to pound 250. You can go on your cell phone, dial pound 250. When the recording comes up, say, find my podcast. It will ask you what podcast, say the Rabbi's Table. And from then on, you will always get our podcast, our show, directly to your phone. So I invite you to sit with me, with our guests, with the different icons, and join us by being part of the podcast, part of the group, part of the community at the Rabbi's Table. So we're back here at the Rabbi's Table with Officer Brandon Tatum. We're so blessed to have him here as a guest. And this is the section where we always bring in Angela Vanderpluym, who is an author, a researcher, an activist, brilliant woman, to help in give some information to also help some of the dialogue. So we've been talking about influencing and politics and Israel. We've been talking about, Brandon's life, security. Brandon, you are an expert in security, and not just local security, but you understand, as we talked in the podcast section, you understand about American security. So I'd like, Angela, if you can give a brief synopsis, both for our audience and for Brandon, because Brandon, I don't know if aware you are or not of this, of the Sharia communities. Are you very aware of that, of what's going on in America with Sharia communities, Brandon?
Yeah. I've heard about them. I've been briefed on a few things that has happened. I've seen the restrictions, especially in Texas. Yeah, so I have a working knowledge of it.
Okay, so Angela, maybe you can give a little bit more detail so that we can spark some conversation based on some of those details.
Sure. So I've done a lot of research into the Sharia community, specifically in Texas, some in Oklahoma. We've got some in Alabama and a few other states coming out. I guess I could give a background, but I think I have more of a couple questions for Brandon because he has a background in security. So what I'm wondering is, if we have these Sharia towns, right, and they have something
Let's just back up to find just very quickly for people who aren't aware what a Sharia town is in just a few seconds.
Okay, that's what I'm getting into. So a Sharia town would be something, it would be like Islamic law, which is adverse to constitutional law in many ways. And what I was going to say is it's called the AMJA. So it's the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. And this is a group, and they meet, and it's a religious organization. And their stated purpose is basically to follow Sharia law. And they come up with different fatwas, different, let's say, legal legislation based on Sharia. So we're talking blasphemy, so speaking ill of Islam. We're talking about adultery. We're talking about apostasy, leaving Islam. We're talking about child marriage. We're talking about marital rape, everything under Sharia. But these people, they're deciding it. Not only are they deciding it, they're giving out rules and legislations for the community, to the imams, to the community inside America. But wouldn't you think that would go against the Constitution? So
The governing body of the
yes,
United States of America is the Constitution.
correct.
That's it. There's no exceptions. There's no
Okay,
way
so
around
let's-
it. That's
Correct.
it.
So, Brandon, it is the Constitution. The United States Constitution is beginning and end of our law as interpreted by our judicial system. It's the supreme law of the land. But if a community like Angela's talking about is informally following Sharia principles that conflict with U.S. law, what should law enforcement do?
Well, it's multifaceted, because you have, if people want to follow Sharia without enforcement, meaning that they cannot enforce some of these things that contradict the Constitution, which means that people in that community, if they're American citizens and they live here, they have constitutional rights that cannot be thwarted because the community wants to follow Sharia. Now, if they want to voluntarily be subject to Sharia as a community that doesn't impact anybody else outside the community, and they can't enforce anything punishable beyond what the law requires, then they can do whatever they want to do, which means that if they say that in the community, you can't blaspheme against Islam. And what does that mean? You can't come to the imam, you can't talk to the imam for a week. If they want to do that, if they want to have little principles like that, that's fine. But if they think that they're going to actively enforce the law and have law enforcement agencies enforce laws that they create that are outside of the penal code, that influences everybody else and outside of the Constitution, is wrong. Now, law enforcement has an obligation to the Constitution. Therefore, if you are in the Sharia city or Sharia town or whatever, and you think you're going to marry a child, you have violated law, federal law, and also state law. And so therefore, law enforcement has to arrest you. If you think you're going to punish somebody because they're wearing a long dress and you assault them, which in other countries, they can hit them with stuff, and you do that in America, that's called assault, according to the penal code in the state of Texas, you're going to get arrested, and the law enforcement officers are going to arrest you. And so you can play Sharia all you want, but once it bumps up against actual law enforcement has the obligation by law and the Constitution to enforce that. And that's what, and what's happening, I think, is that they're trying to do it in two ways. They're doing it underneath the system, which means that they try to do it and roll it out without law enforcement knowing about it. So they do their own little punishment and stuff like that, which is a violation of the law in and of itself. But also they're trying to infiltrate the mayoral position, legislators, so then they can pass laws that now make this law on the book for it to be connected to Sharia. All of that needs to stop. Obviously, Texas has done a lot to prevent that, but law enforcement has to enforce the law, if I can just sum it up like that.
So I'll take it one step further. It's not just not talking to an imam. These things are punishable by death. So essentially, if you are an adulterer, if you create blasphemy against Muhammad, there's a litany of different things. They're basically giving out a ruling saying that this is punishable by death, which means that someone can go and kill you, which is obviously against the Constitution. It's against American laws. These are things that we cannot have happen in our country. So I would say, and it's not just that they're going in as mayoral candidates, they're becoming lawyers, they're becoming judges, they're shaping the law around Sharia and trying to undermine the Constitution itself. And I'm not saying anything about Islam or practicing your religion. I'm specifically speaking about this certain aspect of Sharia and how do we stop it, and how can police departments or anybody else go in and say, listen, this is the United States Constitution. This is, Texas law, for instance. We need to stop this. This cannot happen without invalidating their religious rights.
No, it's very simple. It's the same thing what Governor Abbott has done. Like, you shut it down. It's
right.
Not allowed. It's against the law to practice these things in the state, because they're also violating federal law. Like, so then the federal government has to get involved if they're now thwarting people's constitutional rights. But I also think as a people, as the common public, we need to know about it, and we need to speak out against it as well, because it's not okay that you take your Sharia law mentality. I don't care who you are. You could be Sharia, you could be whatever, and you take that and you bring that with you to a position to try to usurp your authority over the Constitution or the American values. That's not acceptable. And I
But wait,
think
if
that,
it's American values, religious freedom, and if they're doing it all on their own dime,
but they
just to
can't
play
do
devil's
it. They can't do
advocate.
it. Yeah, they can't do it in a position of power. Like if they want to believe in what they want to believe, that's fine. But you cannot go into a position as a judge, because a judge has to raise his right or her right hand and swear to abide by the Constitution of the United States of America and uphold it. And so if you're going in and you're lying to your oath, you are in violation and you should be held accountable. You can't go in and say, I swear by the Constitution or to follow the Constitution and uphold these values, but secretly you're actually trying to thwart the Constitution and uphold other values that are contrary. You just violated your oath, and you should be disbarred. You should be,
But here's part of your
taken off the
problem with that,
bench,
Brandon.
all of that.
Angela, what's the term? If you're a devout Muslim, you can lie to the infidel, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there should be, now I know that you can, but I think there should be elements in place, like in our government, we have co-equal branches of the government, right? So you have checks and balances. If you have a judge that's going in and being selective about enforcing the law because they want to follow Sharia, that's clear. That's a clear investigation that should be had, and the state legislator and others should be able to enforce laws against that. And the courts and the judges, and the state judges should be able to impose restrictions on these people, and licensing that's given to lawyers and stuff should be revoked based on the board reviewing their lack of upholding their constitutional obligation.
So
I mean-
very, very briefly then, Brandon, what I'm going to ask you is to extend that just a little bit step further, okay? Where do you personally, as well as recommend, we draw the boundary between freedom of religion and public safety concerns? Not just breaking the law, but for public safety concerns. 1,000 people going into the street and dedicating the land to Allah. Where do you personally draw that boundary line?
I think personally, it's two things. The boundary line is drawn where it interferes with the Constitution of the United States of America. That's one boundary line. And then also, if it interferes with the assimilation to the United States of America. America has certain values. Freedom is a part of our values. Inalienable rights given to us by God is a part of our values. And so if it's something that interferes with the values, it's unacceptable in the United States of America. You come here to be an American. You don't come here to be Iranian. You don't come here to do any of that stuff. You come here to assimilate it with the American mission and values. Freedom.
And if someone doesn't want to?
Capitalism. If they don't want to, they can't be here. Like, as far as, like, if they're already citizens here, obviously there's certain things that we could do. But as far as immigrants, we shouldn't allow any immigrants to come here that are not willing to assimilate. And if at any point they do not assimilate, or they try to usurp their ideas over the Constitution or anything in the United States of America, their citizenship, or not their citizenship, but their right to be here should be revoked. They should be deported immediately. If I were the president, and if I had anything to do with it, or if I had, unilateral authority, I would end all immigration today. I would end immigration indefinitely. One, till we can fix the system and make sure that we can do it properly and expediently. And the other, so we don't get nut jobs coming into our country, living off our system and trying to take over American values. And until we fix those things, I would not allow immigration in this country unless it's existential, merit-based immigration.
So
meaning that there was a person from another country that we needed for a position that we could not fill in America with American bodies, that one person can have an opportunity to come here and do that one job. But outside of that, I wouldn't allow it.
So I want to be really, really clear. Brandon Tatum's immigration policy is we cut off immigration. And if we do have immigration, that the test is, do you have a desire to assimilate into the melting pot of American values? That is your test.
And we hold you accountable to that. You don't just say that one day when you get sworn in. Your lifestyle has to be consistent with assimilation. If at any point we find you to be not assimilating or trying to usurp your authority or your ideas over the Constitution or what America's founded on, you have to leave.
It's great. It's a clear policy, and it's appreciated. First of all, thank you so much for being on the show, Brandon, and especially thank you, Angela, as always, for joining. Brandon, I always ask everyone one question. I think it is important for us to be able to define it for ourselves and define it for others. One word or phrase that defines the soul, and I can't thank you enough for being here. You are an amazing, amazing amazing man of faith, amazing in everything you do. One word or phrase that personifies, defines Brandon Tatum?
Servant.
Amen. We say that Allah, that the world rests on three things: the Word of God, Al HaTorah, Gimilut Chasidim, acts of loving kindness, and an avodah, on truly serving. Brandon, you are a servant. People can follow you on your YouTube channel, on Instagram, on X, on all of those things, and you're speaking all the time. They can find out your schedule on, what's the website?
The Officer Tatum.
The Officer Tatum. I can't thank you enough for being here, for being who you are. Angela, thank you so much. And I think we all have something to learn. We should all base our lives upon trying to be servants. Amen. Chazako Baruch, Brandon, may you be strong, may you be blessed, may you and your family always be blessed with safety, security, all that is good in the world. Shalom. And we'll be right back at the Rabbi's Table. So we've just spent time with Officer Brandon Tatum in a wonderful discussion about security, about law, about theology, especially in the podcast segment, about his theology, about religion, about Israel. Wonderful kind of dinner table conversation. But we talked about law. And there's a teaching in the Talmud, one of the sacred texts in Judaism. We say, Dinah di malchuta dinah. It literally means the law of the land is the law. We talked with Angela and with Brandon about Sharia law. Well, in Judaism, and I think this is an important teaching because it's American as well, the law of the land is the law. As long as it is consistent for every citizen, the law of the land is the law. It's a really important teaching to remember at all times when contemplating, is the religious law more important than the civil law? Dinah de malchuta dinah. We don't allow Sharia law. We don't allow people to marry children. It doesn't matter what the religion does. The law of this land is the law. The other thing is interpreting law. I think it's important that we remember another teaching that it's attributed, I don't know if it's true, but is attributed to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, one of the great rabbis of the last century. It is said that he said to a bunch of rabbinic students, when a woman comes to you and asks you if a chicken is kosher, look at the woman before you look at the chicken. Because if she can't afford another chicken, you better know enough about the law to make that chicken kosher. You don't invalidate it, but you better know different things. I think we need to remember to always in the law side on the side of compassion. We need to be compassionate with each other and yet still have the boundaries of halakha, of law. In Hebrew, the word halakha means law. It literally means a way of going. The law of the land is the law. We need to be compassionate, and we need to use that kind of law here in America, based on the Constitution, in ways that will further compassion, further blessings, and further peace in this nation, in our communities, our families, this nation, Israel, and the world. Thank you for joining me at the Rabbi's Table. I'm Rabbi Michael Barkley. We've been here with Angela Vander Pluym and Officer Brandon Tatum. Look at past episodes, past podcasts as well. May you have a strong and beautiful day. Chazaku Baruch. May you be strong. May you be blessed. Thank you for joining us at the table. Shalom.